In the last episode of Create Above and Beyond, we built an industrial bridge to connect us to more usable land for our base, built a small sweetberry farm to produce silver coins, and we built a mega factory that'll be used for progression in the Brass Age. But before we do that, I want to swap over to some power tools from Thermal. I want to get a flux bore and a flux saw. The flux bore just takes a drill head, which we can craft very easily, gold gear, a couple of lead gears, and one of these redstone flux coils. There we go. But this does require energy to be used. So we have to also craft up the Tinker's table, not to be confused with anything from the Tinker's construct mod, the Tinker's workbench. Yeah, this is what we need to craft. This is what we can actually charge our tools in. Let's just place it down here for now. Get a Sterling Dynamo out for now. Have this only work with high redstone signal, but this way we're not wasting any coal. And this should start to generate some power and go into the Tinker's workbench. And with the augments, we can increase our power production here from our dynamo. Let's turn it back on. So if we take our flux bore here, change it to charge and fill mode, we should see that this starts to charge up power. And with power, we can use this just as a normal shovel or pickaxe. I'll also craft up the flux saw. It's the exact same thing, just for, well, obviously chopping wood. Ooh, efficiency 4, holding 4, very nice. We won't have to worry about charging it as often. We can have this hold more power, which will be awesome. Now, one thing I'm not sure is, I was wondering if this could actually hold one of these augments as well. Oh, yeah, it does. Okay, it doubles the capacity. Very cool. Ooh, holding 4 in the saw is also really good. Let's get that. One other really cool thing we can add to this tool is the radial enhancement. And if we come in here, place our tool inside, and if we make sure that this mode is in augment mode, we can add these radial enhancements. And now we should be able to toggle this between different modes with larger areas. Cycle tool mode, if we do that, and we can go up to a 7x7. So if we ever have to gather a bunch of materials, this thing is going to make it easy work. I don't know if I want to put the full 7x7. I think just having a 5x5 is going to be plenty for now. I find the sometimes larger areas can become annoying, especially if you misclick. That is a bit of a nightmare then. I do have our fortune pick on us, just in case we do need to do a little bit of fortune mining. But apart from that, I think we're good just to keep Silk Touch running. And to begin our new chapter, I don't think there's a better way to do that than grab our builder's tea and have a sip. Nice. But before we do any work in here, we have to get some power to this building, because without power, we can do pretty much nothing. I think what we'll do is we'll just do the exact same thing that we did over at the andesite factory. We'll probably just have a bunch of water wheels below producing it some power. We're still kind of in the pre-brass age, and we're a little bit limited still on what power options we have. We don't unlock steam engines and all that stuff until we are firmly into the brass age, so I think water wheels are going to be what we're going to use for now. But setting these up should be really easy though. I could just do the exact same thing as before, and with this new tool of mine, this should be a lot faster. There we go. I have some water wheels in here with some gear ratios, so we have a little bit of power going to each side of this factory. 5100 stress units won't take us too far, but I hope it'll at least get us through for now. We'll probably bring power out somewhere like here. So before we even really dive further down this quest line here towards the brass machines, we need to get brass in the first place. And to get brass, we have to mix molten zinc and molten copper inside of a mixer. And this is just going to be using normal melters from Tinker's construct to melt down the ingots that we have. So I think we'll just do the brass automation on this wall here in the smaller area, and then we'll leave the actual brass factory steps over here for the larger room. So let's just give it a little bit of space here. Let's just set down a chest, which is where we're going to want our brass to come out. We'll have a hopper going in there. On top of this, we'll have the casting table from Tinker's. We'll put this down just like this. And then where we're actually going to have the liquid coming in, like the liquid brass, we'll have it coming into here. We'll faucet out the side, and then we're going to have to make sure this is always getting redstone power. And we'll give it some power here from the back. Then back here, let's see, we're going to want to have one of these smart fluid pipes going into this. This is how we're actually going to filter to only allow brass out of here, or else it might try and grab the liquid copper and zinc out of the basin while it's trying to mix. And then also our mechanical pump is going to go in here. I guess the basin can go somewhere like this. We'll have the mixer on top, and we'll have to have one more pipe going out of this. And if I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure that the cogs can go into these areas here. That shouldn't get in the way of the mechanical mixer still. We'll also attach the mechanical mixer in just up here. Then we're going to have our seared melters for the copper and for the zinc. We'll have those seared melters sitting like so. The heaters have to be going underneath, and I'm going to want to add some sort of input for the coal or charcoal. I'll probably just run something like this. We can put all the charcoal into this chest here, and that'll auto distribute to the heaters. We'll make some fresh charcoal. Then we have to have our inputs for our copper and zinc. We'll have some barrels just on top for the input. But we do have to add a pump to get into the basin. So we might have to drop this all down by 1. Can I put the basin down there? Mixer facing the other way. And we got to put one more cog wheel in the middle. And then on this side, the exact same thing. So all of this should be ready to go. All we should have to do is get ourselves some copper. Let's get a little bit of copper out and some zinc. We'll grab 1 stack of each just to test. All right, there's a full bucket of brass. Let's go ahead and grab our bucket out and hopefully, yes, molten brass bucket. Let's set the filter on our fluid pipe. And that should only allow the brass in here now. Nice, automated brass. Now that we're generating some brass over there, let's go ahead and start on the other automations in this big room. The first thing that we're going to do is automate skystone dust. And the way that we're going to do that in the start here is going to be by milling skystone, and that's going to give us 1 dust and also the skystone back. So we can keep recycling the same skystone over and over again. I think we could probably put it down somewhere around here. That should work okay. We'll put the drawer down on top of this, which is where we're going to have the skystone come into, a chute, and then the millstone on top of that. Now I'm spacing this out a little bit because in the future, when we get access to the crushing wheels, I think I want to replace the 1 millstone here with the crushing wheel pair. So having a little bit of extra room on each side is probably going to be a good thing. Let's actually have this go into a barrel first. So we essentially want to loop the skystone back through the whole system. So we want to actually use probably a drawer. Let's get a puller upgrade out here. We'll throw that in here, and this should be the south direction. We'll lock it. From here, we'll probably send this into another barrel. Probably have it just like so. And the pusher upgrade will push all of the skystone into this barrel. And just to keep the logistics a little bit more compact, what we'll do is we'll put a drawer here. We'll put a pusher upgrade, and that's going to be going to the south. We'll have our andesite funnel on the other side. And then to bridge the gap between the drawer and the chute here, I think what we're going to do is just use a drain. The drains are actually kind of fun. They'll basically just take any item that's moving and just keep rolling it along, which is kind of fun. They can work similarly to belts, but they can work in 1 block spaces like this, so they're really convenient. But let's actually get some power over here and see if we can get this thing working. Combination of encased chain drives will probably be what we're going to go for here. And then 1 cogwheel to make the whole thing start spinning. And to kickstart this thing, all we have to do is just flip this andesite funnel, and this should start crushing our skystone. There we go, our first piece. That is the skystone task automated. To get this volatile sky solution, we have to mix the skystone dust with some water. We're also going to need a good supply of water to start growing these quartz seeds into the full Certus quartz crystals. So I'm probably going to make use of some of these aqueous accumulators, which you can make by just using a bucket on the copper machines. And these will just generate us some water infinitely. And we'll probably just end up placing these in the ground here. We'll just do 1, 2, 3, 4. And as long as it'll form an infinite water source on the aqueous accumulator, it'll basically just stay filled with water. And I haven't really planned this out too much in terms of overall layout, so I'm just trying to consolidate things and keep things relatively organized as I'm going along. So let's take a look down here at the other side where we're going to be growing quartz seeds into the quartz crystals. We're going to have to start by crafting up one of these by just taking some Certus quartz dust and mixing it with sand, and that'll basically double it. So then we're going to take this and we have to spout it with water. Effectively, we have to squirt the seed with water 12 times. Now, once we have the Certus quartz crystal, we need to do a couple different things with it. One, we have to recycle one of these back so it turns into the Certus quartz seed again. So normally we'd have to crush down that Certus crystal into the quartz dust and then mix it with sand again to make 2 more Certus quartz seeds. But there is a better recipe. Once we have a mechanical crafter, we can just take Certus quartz crystal, craft it down, and it just automatically crafts into 2 more seeds, which is way better. It completely bypasses the need to have sand in the first place, which we definitely want to go for. To get that, we have to have brass machines first so we can craft those crafters up. So we'll probably end up just doing a batch of them first. We'll get a batch of the Certus through, and we'll probably make a couple brass machines and then make the crafter to fully finish this process. Here we go, Certus quartz seeds. We could use the same spout 12 different times, but that would be really slow. So I think what I'm gonna do is have 12 spouts. So that way it'll just go down the line, get spouted 12 times, and then once it gets to the end of the spout, it'll basically be done. So let's start it somewhere like here or so. We're gonna have 1, 2, 3, 4, 11, 12, and we'll belt all the way across. Then we'll take our spouts and just place them down just like this. We do have to get this little bit of water, so I think what we're gonna do is grab ourselves out some cog wheels, run the cogs over just like this, a little closer to the spouts. We could probably just use a mechanical pump facing right up like this, and then we can hook in the pipes to the water over there. And because we do have quite a distance of water to run, we probably are going to want to have multiple pumps just so that we have enough water pressure to fill these properly. We'll do one here as well, I think. So this should start pumping water once we hook all of these up. So a couple of these aren't getting water, which means we don't quite have enough water pressure. Maybe one more pump here will work. One more pump there. Let's see. Is this going to fill all the water in? Yes. Yes. Just grab a little bit of rotational power from this spot. Let's throw one of these Certus quartz seeds over here. And Certus quartz crystal. Nice. The crafter is going to be going in somewhere like this. And we'll give it some power. Actually, no, now that I think about it, we can't have the crafter right here because we have to split the output Certus crystals 2 ways. We kind of want to round robin it between turning it back into the seed and then also keeping one to use for later. So we're actually probably going to have to change this out to be probably a tunnel or something. Yeah, we're going to have to split it probably right here, which might be a little tricky. I might have to actually move this one water accumulator. Well, hopefully if I upgrade these with some upgrades, we won't need that other one. Honestly, 2 might even be enough. Let's just try it with 2 for now and see if that can keep up with the water consumption. So effectively here at the end, we're going to have a tunnel splitting the outputs. This then is going to have to go into the crafter. And don't worry, I'll explain the tunnels in a sec. They just require us to have brass machines anyway. So all of this is kind of depending on that. We have to get the brass machines before we can actually make the setup more efficient. So once we split the Certus quartz here, the excess will be stored in this drawer here. Once the crafter crafts the Certus quartz back into the seed, we're going to send it up into the barrel. We'll then send it up from the barrel into this funnel. And we're going to make use of a couple more of the drains that we used before. And if we have a funnel going into the side of the drain, it should catch anything that's being shot up from this funnel, and it'll just send it along the drains all the way back here. Probably just somewhere around here. Once here, we want to send it back onto this belt again, because we're going to want to recycle and pump it through with water again. All right, I rearranged the pipes a little bit here, so now I have a little bit more space. Now what we can do is probably just run some chutes down like this, and then we'll just run it into a hopper. And because we have water already over here, we might as well just combine this really close by here with the skystone dust to turn into the volatile solution. That shouldn't be too hard. Shaft like that. We'll bring it to here. I think that should be fine. Double gearbox here. There we go. So here we're going to want to have a basin and a mixer just on top. Well, I have the water hooked in here. I'm not sure if this will actually let it mix through the pipe, but we'll give it a shot. We'll just run some shafts up here and we'll put a cog wheel to give it some power. Andesite funnel on here, andesite funnel on here. Click this over and this should start to mix if it works. It did. Nice. Volatile sky solution. I am going to grab a bucket of this stuff because we are going to have to filter this pipe once we're sending the output out. Do we have any more smart pumps? We have 1. We can make some more with our copper machines. We might need like 2 or 3. So maybe I'll just go ahead and make a couple. Because from here, we want to send the output of the sky solution probably just to the right. Yeah, let's not cram ourselves in here though. Let's give it a little bit of space. Let's just do pipe here. We'll put the smart fluid pipe right here. We'll give it a filter for the volatile solution. And I guess we're going to want to pipe this over somewhere probably in the middle. Let's just see if we can actually center this up here. Right about here. Now this volatile solution is now going to mix into the redstone, the destabilized redstone bucket, charged Certus quartz and volatile sky solution. So we're going to be mixing this again. Let's get out another basin and I'll throw another mixer on top and then a pump right in the middle. And that should send the volatile sky solution in here. Yes. Now we want to deal with our Certus quartz. So once we have our Certus quartz in here, we want to take this out, charge it somewhere in the middle, and then send the charged version into this basin. To make the charger, we have to use an andesite machine and a Certus quartz crystal. The charger can sit probably right here. And then from here, we'll send it out into the basin. Funnel, 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 funnel. So now it's waiting to be charged in here. We'll have the face the dynamo right into the charger, and then we'll do shoot and just a double chest on top here. We'll just load this up with some charcoal here. And now that we've loaded with some charcoal, this should start charging up into the charged crystal. There we go. And now we got to get this some power. Our destabilized redstone is being made, and it turned it right into the polished quartz. Interesting. I don't necessarily want it to do that. I would rather have it eject into a different mixer for that process. So I guess we're going to have to filter this. I guess if I just say, hey, only make Certus quartz. Yes, okay, that filter works. We need to take the output from this and go into another basin, which I guess we'll just do right in front here because we're already centered up. So to get the destabilized redstone out from here, what we're going to do is just use the little trick where we can put the pipe inside of the mixer, put a mechanical pump up against it like so, as long as the arrow is facing this way. Then we'll put a smart filter and then one more pipe. Now the smart filter has to have a bucket of destabilized redstone, so we're going to have to make this a couple more times. So if we get a bucket of the redstone, let's go ahead and put this on the filter. If we just do cog, vertical gearbox, cog. There we go. Okay, destabilized redstone is now mixing with Certus quartz, and we get the polished rose quartz. We'll set the filter on this recipe. So from here, we want to take the polished quartz out of the basin, and we want to actually get a spout. Let's get another spout out here. That was the wrong recipe. So if we use a belt here and place a spout on top of here, we have to put molten iron into that spout to then squirt on top of the polished rose quartz, which means that I need another tinker's melter. We could probably share the charcoal here with the heater. So if I place the heater down somewhere like this, melter goes like so. We can just probably go hopper in there and double shoot. Now I know the quest wants you to get into some production of iron using washing gravel. The problem that I have with that is it is exceptionally slow, and it is quite a process for very little return. I would much rather scale up our infrastructure of coin production and just buy the iron we need outright and just auto stock it that way. And this only takes 10 millibuckets of iron per electron tube. One ingot provides us, I believe, 90 millibuckets. So that's 9 of them. And we can just stock this thing up with iron ingots, no problem. I'll even just get a stack in there for now just to start melting up. From here, just a very simple pipe out the front and then into just a mechanical pump. And from here, the final process is just going to be 3 deployers, same as the andesite setup. We have to get the output from this into the first 2 of these. Yeah, so 1, 2. So we have to have this going from left to right. So maybe we just adjust this a tiny bit. That, and our input will be there. Funnel, funnel. We have to craft up a screwdriver. We'll put in this one. And last but not least, we have to just start growing these Certus quartz seeds up. We're making Certus quartz here. We want to kind of manually grab this for now, I guess, and throw this onto this belt here. It's working. That's good. All right, so we have 12 electron tubes here. Let's grab these. Let's put these 12 in this one here. And as more come in, they should start completing. And there we go. Our very first precision mechanisms are being made. That means we can get some brass machines now. I love how I have this whole automation set up and I'm still just here like a factory worker grabbing things. Just clocking in for my shift at the Temu factory. Well, we have 14 precision mechanisms now. Let's actually just lock these drawers really quick. We're going to grab the ones that we can out of here and surrounding these with brass casing. Now, I have brass being made over here. Let's go ahead and make a stack of the brass plates. With these, we should be able to just combine them with some logs to get brass casing. And then surrounding the casing with our precision mechanisms, we can get our first brass machine. The brass era is finally here. And now we can take this and convert this into some brass tunnels, which is going to be responsible for doing the round robining over here. We're going to place our brass tunnel down and we're going to set this to forced split. That means that every second one coming through here will be split evenly between this output and this output. And with one more brass machine, we should be able to hit this with a crafting table, I think is how it goes. Yes, mechanical crafter, we get 3 of them. Then we're going to place down our crafter just like this, make sure that the arrow is facing up into the barrel, and just hook it in like so. If I put one Certus down here, that should start the whole chain. Oh, on a roll. We can see that these guys are rolling across the drains and they come back down here to get converted. And at the end here, we should see them split. Yes, perfect. Exactly what I wanted to happen. But I am actually going to load up these first to get a couple of these going through. And then just an andesite funnel on the side here. And that should fully automate this whole setup. And up and in. Beautiful. Looks like our limiting factor here really is just the water. I guess just adding more pumps will do it. Maybe we can put a pump right in here. Now, of course, this thing isn't fully automatic. There is a little bit of maintenance that we do have to come back and tend to. We have to make sure that this chest stays filled with charcoal, and we have to make sure that this barrel here also has some iron in it. Because it does use the iron very slowly, I'm not super concerned about that. That's not really going to be too bad, I don't think, to keep refilling every once in a while. And then also we have to refill our kinetic mechanisms. Now, at some point, I do want to be able to have a train network coming in here and potentially dropping off kinetic mechanisms for this to use inside of our system here. At least we have the space open here, so the input shouldn't be too hard to hook up once we do have it. The only other thing that I do want to upgrade still is going to be this millstone. Ideally, I want this to be the crushing wheels, so I'll probably go ahead and switch that out. I do have to make sure we have enough crafters to, first of all, make the crushing wheels. So we have 52 precision mechanisms. How many machines is that going to make us? 6? Yeah, 6. So we can get 18, 19, 20. Oh, we're so close. One more brass machine needed. We have 7 brass machines. Let's get a crafting table out. We're going to need to have 7 of these. And there we go. 23 mechanical crafters. There we go. All these are spinning, and the nice thing is they do link together. So if you just power one of them, it'll power all of them. And the crushing wheel recipe is so cheap. It's just a bunch of cobblestone, sticks, and that's pretty much it. What I'm going to do is just probably link these together. You can just come to the back here, right click on the dividing lines between them, and that just links them. And when I say links them, I mean that I can just right click once with cobblestone and it'll fill all of them in. Same with the sticks. Here are the crushing wheels. The very first crushing wheels. Let's just make a couple of these sets while we're here, considering this is a temporary setup after all. I think 16 crushing wheels should be plenty for now. So all we should have to do then is just take out our millstone here. We have to change a little bit about how this is running. All right, so that's working pretty well now. And we want to eject exactly 4 at a time. That sped up that process a bit. So hopefully this will keep up now with the volatile sky solution. And everything else here is looking good. I've added a little bit of design just to start facading this whole thing. So I'll probably have an entrance on each side. But yeah, effectively this looks like the start of a good factory. And now that we have access to these crushing wheels, I think it's time for us to revamp this setup over here to start producing a little more clay more consistently. Because I'm already tired of having to replace the strainers in these, and I think this is where we can start to change that up a little bit. So we're going to take this cobblestone here, we're going to crush it down to gravel, and then again into sand, and wash it into clay. And hopefully that'll provide enough clay for this setup, but then also potentially for a little extra that we can use for bricks. So let's just take our shafts here, and we're going to run it over to this area here. We have a little bit of space in the side of the building, and I think we can fit 2 crushing wheels in here. We'll have a belt come from here just like so, and then on this side we'll just come over here. Then we can just put a shaft in here and that'll power this. We'll have our first crushing wheel set, I think, right here, and then the other one will be right after, somewhere like this. And then I think hooking these in should be pretty straightforward. There we go. And then we can put our crushing wheel back. We should be able just to run some shafts up here and then hook in these directly. They are going to have to spin the other way though. So we are going to have to throw in a vertical gearbox first. We'll do the exact same thing here on this one. All right. I think that is spinning. Oh, am I just... Wait, get me out. I think I'll actually disassemble all of the stuff here with the strainers. And I guess we can also grab the hoppers out. Now, this last step here where we're actually crushing gravel into sand can also give a chance output of flint and clay. Now, Clay isn't a big deal. We can just pass that along and that'll just go into the drawer properly. But flint, we're going to have to deal with. Probably just want to get rid of it actually. So I'll put a lava bucket down here. And I'll just set it down here with a smart chute and filtered only for flint. That way this will only pick up flint and send it into the lava just to void it off. Likewise, we're going to have a list filter here set to clay and sand. And we're going to put that onto a brass funnel, so it'll only try and send clay and sand up instead of just the flint. And eventually we want all of this to get to this drawer right here. We can maybe just bring this out and up, like something like this. Let's bring this up here, just a couple, maybe just to here or something. One thing I do have to do is add a bit of a setup to wash our sand into the clay. And I think I have just enough space over on this side. And if I face it this way, I should be able to wash everything coming this direction while it's on this belt. I think I can waterlog this leaf, and I think the chute can still pick up items coming through here. Though it's gonna need to be filtered, so that actually might not work. Let's see if we can actually rework this a little bit. So let's try bringing this up from here. If I then grab a brass funnel, I can then filter this to only say to send out clay, just like this. Then with an item drain, I should be able to have this roll over top the item drain and into the chute. Then I can put the leaf, if I can get this right on top here like that. And actually getting power to this thing is going to be super easy. I can just use the shaft here. We'll just use another shaft, vertical gearbox, and then hopefully this will be blowing the right way. No, okay, this is not. So it's an easy fix. All we have to do is throw in one more vertical gearbox and that's blowing. Nice. Put that on and now this should be washing anything on this belt. And it looks like it reaches pretty much right to the end. Hopefully this will be pretty quick then. I'm also going to make sure that we filter this drawer here to take sand and clay. And I'll also probably give these a couple upgrades. Definitely going to give it a void upgrade. All we should have to do now is get a brass funnel, put it on our cobblestone drawer and watch the magic happen. And sure enough, we do have sand and clay coming in here. We'll go ahead and also throw a brass funnel on this, and this should just start to work. Yep, it's washing a stack of sand, and then any resultant clay should just roll out here. There we go. Yes. And we should be stocking clay in here. Amazing. This is going to be so much better than what the strainers were able to keep up with. And with all that being said, I want to thank you very much for watching this episode. If you did enjoy it, feel free to leave a like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. If you aren't aware, I do have a couple of Patreon supporter servers, and one of those servers is running cabins. So if you are interested in playing this pack alongside some other people, then feel free to head over to the Discord and get a little more information over there. But that's it for me, everybody. I hope you all have a good one, and we'll catch you in the next episode of Create Above and Beyond. Bye!